So welcome back. We're here to continue our build on the Belington Ice and Bottling Company. So stay tuned. So welcome back to Stu Structures. I'm Mark Stewart, and we are going to continue on with this ice company. There was three different industries tied into this little building here, or multiple buildings put under one roof. But it's coming along really nicely, so without any further ado, I'm just going to jump into this. Let's see how much we can get accomplished this week. All my road trips and everything taking time, and my nursery, so it's not going as fast as I'd like it to, but I'm going to get as much done this week as we can. So let's just see how much free time I can get and how far I can go. Let's jump into this. Alright, so last week when we left this, we were just, halfway through working, getting all these one-story roofs on. Still have some bracing to put on, the roofs to mount on there, and then all the roofing paper and flashing and all that stuff to do. So we're just going to jump into this. Now, building A, I was further along than most buildings. So I came back and went ahead and put my 3-foot roofing paper all the way up building A and got all that on. Now we have this doghouse to mount on there, and I went ahead and finished the one before blue trim all the way around it and the black paint on the roof, and I just go ahead and glue it down to the roof at this point. Now, it's a nice looking structure. I'm not sure how big the building really was, but it'll work for what I want it to do. Now on this lower edge of building A, there's actually a gutter on this, and I'm going to make that separate and work on it, but before I do that, I want to paint the roof. And before I paint the roof, I want to go ahead and add flashing around the edges of the roof. So I use this tissue paper and just cut small pieces that I can work with, and bend it into a 45-degree angle kind of trowel, and use this tester cement and just put small pieces to put flashing all the way around the outside wall and around the building as well, where the doghouse mounted on the roof. And I just come back and put black paint on everything. Now for the gutters, I'm going to use this styrene and make gutters. I don't have anything pre-made. This probably would have had a round copper type of gutter on it, but I just don't have an easy way to make that. So I'm going to make this square gutter channel out of that just stripped styrene, put little caps on the ends of it, and glue it onto the wall, and I have a gutter in place on the bottom of that roof. Now we need to continue on around with the bracing and get the rest of that in place. So the triangle piece that I had made in the previous show, I went ahead and mounted in this corner. Now that frees up the whole back side, and it's totally ready for roofing. So I use that same roofing paper that I used on the other buildings, or cardboard and I pre-cut these pieces and draw on the lines on them to give me guides for putting the roofing paper on, and just come back and glue these 3 pieces into place. Then I come back through and put that same roofing paper on this roof like I did building A and the other 2 buildings, and the roofing paper's on. Then I come back and put flashing here around building B, and while all this is setting up, I did go ahead and put some first coat of paint on that. Now, where this area is between building C and building A, there was this other little wall that needs to be made for in there. Originally, I thought maybe it could be a one-piece wall, but there's a little bit of each wall exposed on either side. So I came up with this piece right here that will mount down in there, and then I can run the roofs from both sides of both buildings into that wall. And here you can see it glued into place with the wall that will show on this side, and then a shot from the other side where you can see the small triangle of the wall that will show from that side. But this gives me the ends of both walls, so I go back and add the bracing into that 1-story wall on the other side of that there, and I start cutting roofing panels to go around the rest of building B. And then once I have both panels cut, I draw the lines on it. I pre-paint the underside and the facing side of it blue that are exposed like I do on all the rest of the roof panels, and then glue those 2 panels into place. and go ahead and add the 3-foot roofing paper all the way up. Now this side my lines didn't work out right, but remember we have detail that go on this roof later, so I really wasn't too worried about that. And I went ahead and added the flashing up at the top with that tissue paper and put a basic coat on the roof right before I had done that. Went ahead and put the paint on the rest of the roofing paper on building C. Some of this I jump back and forth so you can see things on one roof that are done before another roof and stuff like that. And some of the shots I take, I jump all over the place when I'm doing these buildings. But I'll go ahead and put the flashing around building C, and that's ready for paint up there. Now the other odd building that we don't have a roof on yet is this building between building C and building A. So now that I have that end in back there, I know where my straight pieces will be on either side, so I put those in and just put some mediary pieces in there to give the ceiling more support. I go ahead and paint that wall back at the end white because it'll get trim in the corner, so just the basic panel needs to have some paint on it. And I go ahead and cut the roof for in that section there. And I draw my lines on it, and I'm going to paint the underside of it blue, just like I did on all the other roofs wherever it shows down the outer edge. And then I come back and I'm going to just glue that into place between the two buildings. Now all our roof panels are in place. So, once I come back through, and you've seen me put roofing paper on most of the others in earlier shots, but I'm just going to come back and deal with this one too. I go ahead and use that same lettering to do the cold storage sign on the edge of this, and you can tell the little lettering is a little big now because the words kind of run together, but that's the best I can do with what I have. And after the roofing paper is on that other roof, then I'll come back and add the flashing paper in. You can see I'm starting to get paint on the other roofs in between doing some of these tasks. But then I come back and put a second coat of black paint on everything, and there's some areas I'm going to have to maybe just touch up with third coats here and there, but this is just shots of all the various angles with all the roofs with the roofing paper on and completed and painted with all the flashing in place. And now basically I got a lot of trim work to do on this building. And then I've got the decks around the outside and the overhanging roofs that go over those. But we're on a roll and we're on to the next step. So I'm going to backtrack here and just start putting all this blue trim on the building. And all the corners get a piece on each side of the corners. The top edges of the buildings underneath the roof lines get it. And it's just a long process of just coming back and just adding all that trim to all these corners. It does really hide a lot of wood imperfections and meats in the corners, and it cleans up things really good. Now I am going to have to come back and just touch up everywhere they meet with blue paint and clean up the white paint a little bit. You can see here there's a little white between one of the corners there, and once you come back and fill that with blue paint, you really don't notice any of this stuff on there. And around the top of the building here too. Now this gets a cap piece, which we'll go into in a minute or two, but it's just a lot of time process, especially down between building A and C and those little corners back in there. It's hard to get to some of these areas, and you can see the little white areas here that are going to have to be touched up. But it just takes a while to come back and add all this trim into the building. And now we're going to look at putting this white cap on, or the blue cap on top of building A. And I know the width now because I got the trim pieces and everything, so I just find this piece of basswood, and it's just under a foot wide, so I come back and cut a strip. And this will just stick out just a little bit on either side past the trim on the roof. Then I come back and pre-paint it blue because I don't want to have to worry about, where the blue meets the white, overlapping with brush strokes and that kind of thing. But then I just come back and touch up all the paint and clean up areas on, every surface to make sure they're, where I missed with the brush strokes or whatever. You know, come back around the edges of vents and just everything that needs to have blue paint or white paint or something cleaned up, glue marks, all that kind of thing. And that's really the basic building together. Now we have all those platforms and roofs over those and a detail on this roof, but that's it. So there you have this week's segment of building the Belington Ice and Bottling Company. You know, this structure, I'm really liking this. The main structure is just about complete. We have all those details to put out in front on that one-story roof of the condensers, the little tiny, I don't know, I'm going to call it a dog house too, although that's not really what it is with the window in it. And some chimneys and stuff like that. We also have the platforms, the rear platform and the front platform with the roofs over those to do. So, you know, I'm looking at one, maybe two more shows to complete this building. And then, you know, a lot of you are looking forward to me building Sparky's house. I already started on it. Whenever I come to a break in this building where I have to let things set up or paint dry or whatever, I've been putting together the beginnings of Sparky's house. So I am working on that, and those shows will start just as soon as I can get this building completed. I'll start posting those as my weekly show. In any case, I appreciate you coming back and sharing this time with me. You know, I really enjoy doing this. I hope some of you are learning a little bit from this, even if it's not how to not do something. You know, everybody has their own techniques. Nothing's right or wrong. It's whatever works for you. The things I do work for me. You know, I probably should go a little more into weathering, but I think the weathering on most of my buildings are going to wait till I'm putting together a small scene, and I'll do weathering on buildings as I put together scenes on the layout when I eventually get to building some of that. In any case, like and share this material. A lot of people don't know how to do this and want to know how to build buildings for their own model railroad that don't exist in kit form. And hopefully some of this gives them ideas and how-tos, and a lot of it's just, you know, working on your craft and scratch building. So jump out there with some materials and build something. You know, that's what it's all about. I'm hoping I'm not sharing this information for nothing. I hope some of you are jumping out there and scratch building some buildings. I know some of you are. So in any case, it's all about fun, you know. Just enjoy your trains. Happy model railroading.